for you and the confidence that I personally have in the ability of all of you to deliver.
Meanwhile, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has called on the people of Gombe State to vote overwhelmingly for the candidates of the All Progressives Congress in the 2019 general elections. This was when he flagged off the All Progressives Congress governorship campaign in Gombe State.
I believe very strongly, and all of us, every one of us must know that APC is for all of us. APC is for Gombe. Gombe is for APC. When I say APC, you say next level. APC. APC.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has reiterated his commitment to restructure Nigeria if elected president. This was at the party's presidential rally in Minna, Niger State.
This is a promise and a commitment I am making on behalf of PDP, and if you vote for PDP.
And away from politics, the Nigerian government has signed a memorandum of understanding with Chinese government. The MOU is aimed at capacity building of military personnel in the fight against insurgency.
Insurgency is not a single country's problem. It's a global problem which all nations should come together and fight it together. I thank you most sincerely for coming, and we really appreciate the gesture done to us.
Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing gets symbolic sukuk check to finance 28 key road projects across the country as part of 2018 budget borrowing plan. This is in line with government's commitment to bridge the infrastructure gap and gain significant interest from a wide range of retail and institutional investors.
The federal government's objective of financial inclusion is deepening. We have now a wider investor base of federal government securities, and this is on the upward trend.
It's the most important thing in terms of nation building, job creation, growth, and employment. I want to say again that there is no nation that I know of that has gone on to greatness without building.
The Presidential Advisory Committee on Elimination of Drug Abuse says it is partnering key players with a view to adopting an aggressive and holistic approach to eradicating the supply, demand and abuse of drugs in the country. The committee members stated this during their visit to the force headquarters and the Nigerian Customs Service in Abuja.
Our marching order was to find sustainable strategies for the elimination of drug abuse in this great country. And we have set about this work by first engaging the key stakeholders, of which the police is a very important one.
By setting up this committee, which has the much important mandate of coordinating and accelerating federal government's intervention measures to mitigate the attendant threats of drug abuse to the nation's socio-economic growth, security and welfare.
President Muhammadu Buhari has called on the media in the country to make an extra effort to report actual and reliable information, avoid fake news and ensure that facts form the basis of all news reports. The president made the plea when he received Jamie Angus, director of the BBC World Service at the State House in Abuja. He congratulated the BBC for the high reputation it has earned through difficult times, such as the period of the Nigerian Civil War. The president commended BBC's dissemination of news to the vast communities in different languages, especially Hausa across the Sahel region and Igbo, Yoruba and Pidgin in Nigeria. And that ends the news segment. Kingsley and Juma will be back to continue with the program after the break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Sore throats, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like they're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in 1 lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
My names are Mr. Arumewa Johnson. I'm one of the community leaders in the State Towns community in Warri Metropolis, Delta State. I am happy that the rail project that started for the past 30 years has come to stay. People in Alaja, Ujewu, the State Town communities cannot travel with the train to Agbo and Itakpe. The train will not carry the goods from Itakpe to Alaja, Ujewu, and Agbo, respectively. I thank God that President Muhammadu Buhari has been able to complete the rail project, which other successive administrators have not been able to do.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir. And your shirts are always so white. I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results. Shh, it's our little secret. It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
Getting around heartburn and indigestion can be tricky if you eat too much. Eat food that is too spicy or greasy, or lie down after eating. Heartburn and indigestion could always be around the corner. When they come, be prepared with Gaviscon Double Action. It works within 3 minutes and lasts up to 8 hours. Gaviscon Double Action. Many causes, one solution.
If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live from Abuja. Federal government's quest to diversify the economy through exports and coals as Yam Committee is set to take possession of Ikorodu Terminal. Let's join Kunle Adeye for details.
The Chairman Technical Committee on the Yam Export Program, Professor Simon Itwange, disclosed that the takeover of Ikorodu Terminal will facilitate yam exports in the first quarter of 2019. He said the terminal has been officially chosen as a base for the exportation of yam and other agricultural produce. He also said wastage will be avoided now that vehicles will avoid Apapa gridlock, which takes a longer time before the produce gets to the ship, which usually resulted in heavy losses for farmers and the vehicles in the past. In addition to exporting raw yam, the committee is also talking with yam processors on how their packaged products can be exported to earn more foreign exchange for the country. In another development, hope for the implementation of the 2019 budget was rekindled as crude oil price climbed around 3% to rebound to $60 per barrel. This followed the extension of talks between the United States of America and China in Beijing, which raised hopes that the world's two largest economies will resolve their trade standoff. The federal government also predicated the budget on the production of 2.3 million barrels per day. And next is the graphic representation of Thursday's tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle, for the updates on the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next for us is a review of the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Now, as usual, our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Teovi, is in the studio. You're welcome.
Thank you, Juma. Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Bayo, good to see you. Let's have the Daily Independent as well as the New Telegraph. Both papers are leading with stories on politics and, in fact, the re-election campaign by President Muhammadu Buhari. Daily Independent captures it this way. My re-election is guaranteed, and that's according to President Buhari. It has three riders. Why APC governors shunned inaugural campaign. That's campaign council meeting, and that's according to the chairman, Shomole. Okorocha Nnamani and ministers shun Southeast Buhari campaign. Germany demands free, fair, and credible elections. And for the New Telegraph, the headline is as follows. That's the lead story. Double Decker says governors absent as Buhari holds campaign council meeting. President, that's the first rider, I'm confident of victory on February 16th. Atiku, APC planning to rig presidential election. And Dogara, that's House Speaker, election will be referendum on insecurity and hunger. Details can be found on page 2. And back again to the Daily Independent, that's the second lead story. Right at the foot of the front page, 2019, Ohaneze Ndigbo denies endorsing Atiku, says it will support candidates that will restructure Nigeria.
Well, from the Daily Trust newspaper, we see the Emir of Lafia, Mustafa Agwe I, passes on at 84 on a sad note, and General Alkali, 13 more suspects wanted. And the picture, the main headlines is 2019, I am confident of winning Buhari. With a rider, President APC using state resources for campaign, Atiku. And then we have the picture story here. Kaduna State Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Abdurrahman, leads other police officers during the inspection of a forest at Kasarami village on the Abuja-Kaduna Express yesterday. And then we have at the bottom plate of the Daily Trust, we have troops clear Boko Haram from Baga, Kukawa and others. That's on page 3. 294,000 applicants jostle for 10,000 police job slots. That's on page 8. And FG releases 100 billion for 28 road projects, and that's on page 17. And on the Punch newspaper, above the masthead, we have minimum wage, reduce reckless expenses, pay 30,000. NLC tells government. That's on page 2. Vote buying could mar Nigeria's elections. That's coming from the United States government. That's on page 10. And Emir of Lafia, Issa Mustafa, dies at 84. That's on page 39. And we have the lead story here. Strike continues until FG implements offers. That's on a very sad note. ASU. And then we have the picture story here. The train that crashed in Lagos. 1 passenger dies, dozens injured as train derails in Lagos. Then we have at the bottom plate of the Punch, board confirms Telelogy Holdings withdrawal from 9 mobile deal. That's on page 30. Military shouldn't be left alone to fight Boko Haram. That's from Kashim Shettima, governor of Borno State. That's on page 3. El Rufai, an unpopular governor, hasn't achieved anything, attributed to Senator Sani, page 41. Oshibajo, governors pay tributes at Ondo Berry's fashion. That's on page 41. Man stabs wife to death over alleged extramarital affairs in Nigeria. That's on page 8. And INEC blames politicians for inconclusive polls. That's on page 9. Bayo.
Yes, indeed, we join the people of Lafia as they mourn the passing away of Alhaji Muhammadu Mustafa Agwai the first. He died aged 83. Governor Tanko Almakura announced the death yesterday after it has been confirmed by the Madaki of Lafia. He's to be buried today. He actually ascended the throne in 1974 and reigned for 45 years. May his soul rest in peace. There's also the report about the mass transit train that had 3 wagons derailed yesterday. It is a daily mass transit that shuttles between Ijoko in Ogun State to Apapa. It derailed at Asabe level in Agege. 3 coaches skidded off the track, and that was around 7:15 p.m. Luckily, a lot of emergency personnel were around from Lagos and also the Red Cross. Surprisingly, they reported that there were no deaths and there were no injuries. However, they themselves expressed reservations because you know that the mass transit train always have people traveling on it, sitting on top of the roof. So the speculations were that people traveling on the roof were afraid of the possible consequences. So even when they were injured, they found their way out quietly so that they probably would not be arrested. But some papers are reporting 1 dead and several others injured. But it is the 3rd rail accident within that same corridor of the Nigerian Railway. There was one November 16th around the abattoir area of Agege, and there was another one in June when a commercial bus rammed into the train. I said something has to be done about that level crossing there. It is becoming a common site for accidents.
But you're right. The level crossings, particularly in the Lagos area, are poorly maintained. The derailment occurred yesterday at one of those level crossings. Ordinarily, you know the way a level crossing is. There are clear signs. There's a signal officer, who will control that. There are also barriers that will come down to prevent vehicular and human movement once a train is coming and until the train passes before the barrier is lifted. But the track itself, because that's why it's a level crossing. It's not just the train that uses it. You have other vehicles that also use it. They say those tracks, particularly at the level crossings, they are poorly maintained. And when you drive, over those level crossings, you feel it yourself.
My worry is some track area have become marketplace. Yaba area was particularly one of those areas, the level crossing at Yaba. For a long time, the train was not functioning, so traders will bring their wares onto the track. And for a long time, because of poor maintenance, the tracks have suffered a lot of depreciation. So they need to make sure. The good thing is that for the old gauge, I think the General Electric is the one that has gotten the contract to revive the track from Lagos up to Kano, Kaura Naboda, and the other track from the southeast, from Port Harcourt up to Maiduguri.
It's unfortunate. What you said, there was an accident some years ago on the tracks. I think it was somewhere around the Yaba area. Yes. And a number of those traders were crushed to death, unfortunately.
Even
and
the
those
member was crushed to death last year.
And those who undertake the free ride on the roof of a train, it's a criminal offense. It's an offense in the first instance for you to ride a train without purchasing a ticket.
And that is why some of them that were speculated, probably injured, had to find their way to go and take care of themselves because they were afraid of being arrested.
Absolutely.
Now on the campaign trail, the All Progressive Congress launched its Presidential Campaign Council yesterday. It made me recall that on Monday, the council was launched. The meeting yesterday, according to President Muhammadu Buhari, was to approve the terms of reference of directories in the campaign council. He urged the council to rise to the challenge of the great expectation. He said, there is no doubt victory is with us, but that shouldn't mean that we should rest even for a moment. He enjoyed working hard to maximize the scale and extent of the victory. In another development, an elected People's Democratic Party federal government will give 40% to youth and 30% to women in participation. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, told a rally in Nasarawa that the Ministry of Youth and Sports would be headed by a 30-year-old. The former vice president called on the youth and women to vote for his party, and particularly he advised them to go to the polling booths, vote, and also stay to defend their vote to ensure that it is counted. However, there has been pronouncements from the socio-cultural groups, where one is from the southwest frontiers for Buhari. They say that they are not in agreeable with Afenifere declaring its support for a presidential candidate that purportedly says it will carry out restructuring. The spokesman for that organization, Omawumi Adebayo, says Afenifere is not speaking for the interest of the southwest people. In another development, the Ohanaeze Ndigbo says it has not endorsed any presidential candidate for the February election. National Publicity Secretary of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chuks Ibegu, says before Ohanaeze will endorse any candidate, the MOB, the Ohanaeze's highest decision organ, will have to be convened.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I wonder what the purpose of endorsements has. If the principle is one person, one vote, and at the material time of casting your vote, the groups that you have mentioned and indeed other pressure groups are not there with you at the polling booth. So what do?
Well, it's influence peddling. There have been several times that you have Arewa Consultative Forum also declaring, well, that then another elders forum will say, no, we are not part of it. It's part of the influence peddling.
All right, Bayo, let's take other stories, this time from the Daily Independent newspaper. Daily Independent newspaper, still on the front page, that's the first column from the right-hand side, beside the photograph there showing the train that derailed yesterday. Insecurity, northern elders are now silent. That's according to Dogara. And bad governance begets insecurity, says Atiku. And ASU, yet to decide on strike, still consulting. That's Ogunyemi. Lagos Assembly insists on proper presentation of 2019 budget by Ambode. And Lai Mohammed here is quoted as saying, Saraki's nominees in government will soon be kicked out. Details of that can be found on page 3. And Bayo, lastly, let's take this one above the nameplate of New Telegraph. Federal government's advisory committee not relevant to minimum wage agreement. That's according to the NLC. Details can be found on page 5. Below the name flag, Tinubu's National Assembly's office boggled. That's Senator Remi Tinubu, and the number of applicants there for 10,000 jobs available at the police force. Then, lastly, right at the foot of the front page of the New Telegraph, that's a headline there, but be careful when you take that headline. Read the story in greater detail. Taking tea during pregnancy poses risk to baby. That's on page 10. Let me just say this very briefly, Bayo. It's talking about caffeine in tea. So if the tea is decaffeinated, what happens? And then the study conducted in Ireland is based on observation. So there's no scientific proof yet showing the actual causation factors of tea taking and the consequences it might have on the fetus.
Yes, naturally, caffeine in any beverage has effect on the individual, not to talk of a pregnant person who apparently is having a fetus. So that is... Well, let's quickly look at the two other stories. Troops of 707 Special Force Brigade have cleared areas of northern Borno, and this was achieved by synergy between the Nigerian Air Force and as well as the Navy. And so far, Zari, Gudumbali, Kukawa, and Cross Kawa have all been cleared of insurgents. The factions of Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP, is said to have come into that area with the infiltration of other foreigners coming in to support this faction of Boko Haram. The success is attributed to the synergy between the Nigerian Air Force, the Navy Special Force, as well as the 707 Brigade of the Operation Lafia Dole. So the Chad fringes now is now being cleared gradually of those. In another development, the Minister for Defense signed a memorandum of understanding with the representative of the People's Republic of China yesterday. The Minister Mansour Dan Ali says it is a follow-up of the President Muhammad Buhari's visit to China in September. This will supplement with fighter planes and other military hardware to help the war on insurgency. The police recruitment, 294,851 applications for the 6 weeks period. On the average, it means you will have at least 30 persons competing for the single recruitment position that is available for the 10,000 to be recruited. Earlier, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, there was approval by Mr. President for 10,000 recruited. Presently, the police force strength stands about 334,000 nationwide. And sadly, 50% of them are always attached to the politically exposed person. There's this interesting story
In spite of directives from time to time by the President, even by the Inspector General of Police himself, that you should reduce the number of persons, who have policemen attached to them as private escorts.
And whenever the Inspector General of Police had given that instruction, 2 or 3 days later, there have been a counter-instruction from the same office saying that they have to put that on hold. This interesting story revolves to, you remember that flamboyant goalkeeper of Congo Republic, Robert Kidiaba, who is fond of, when there is a goal, he does this bomb hop.
That's right, on
guy.
The pitch, yes.
He contested election and he has won in Katanga province. Wow. Katanga province is associated with copper mine, and you remember Patrice Lumumba of those days. Now he's to represent the member of parliament for the Katanga province. The 42-year-old is elected to the upper chamber of that legislature. He joins
George Weah.
George Weah.
George Weah.
George Weah is going into politics.
Yeah, that's good news.
All right.
Moving from the pitch to politics.
Thanks a lot. For those who are interested, look at page 9 of the New Telegraph. There's a story there of a journalist, a 24-year-old photo journalist. His name is Yinka Badmos. He was said to have been arrested and remanded by the police over his hairstyle, that he looked like a cultist wearing dreadlocks. Page 9, New Telegraph. Bayo Atoebe would like to thank you for being with us on the program. All right.
Thank you so much, Bayo.
Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing health matters.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Sore throat, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like you're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in one lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie. Buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen!
Toilet day? Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready. Impossible! Challenge? New Ticker Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic because its new Ticker formulation sticks to the bowl better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet. Wow! New Harpic 10X gives me the freedom from toilet day.
Thank you for staying with Good Morning Nigeria. And to kickstart our discussion, let's take this background report put together by Aisha Uba Ali.
These are enthusiastic stakeholders in the health sector unveiling the National Strategic Health Plan and the Basic Health Care Provision Fund, which is seen as a New Year gift to Nigerians. The strategic plan, which was approved in September 2018 by the Federal Executive Council, is a roadmap for achieving health policies and to also ensure that Nigerians have accessible and efficient health care through a strengthened health care system. This is coming after the 2016 National Health Policy, which provided stakeholders in the sector a comprehensive framework for harnessing all resources for health development towards achieving universal health coverage.
Vigilance, eternal quest for accountability, intense civil society engagement, the actual deployment of social media, and the push for transparency in budgeting approaches to support Basic Health Care Provision Fund implementation.
The Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, and his counterpart, Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, say to reap the demographic dividend, the health system must be optimized and also manage population growth.
We shall focus more on the people living in the rural areas and the vulnerable population in our society such as women, children under 5 years of age, and the elderly, in collaboration with national and international partners.
Among other expected outcomes of the plan is to see that maternal, neonatal and child mortality rate is reduced.
Thank you very much, Aisha Bali, for that background. Now, joining us in the studios, first would like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewole. Professor Adewole, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure. Good morning.
All right, just before we bring in the other guests, let's start with you and to give us some more insights into what the Strategic National Health Plan is all about. And in particular, what distinguishes it from other policies or plans or arrangements that we have had in this country with regard to healthcare delivery?
Thank you so much. The National Strategic Development Plan 2 implies that it is not the first in the history of the country. It's actually the second one. We had one covering the period 2010 to 2015. But what is special about this is actually following the development of our national health policy. The National Health Policy 2016, which is the third in the history of this country, tries to situate itself within the context of the Economic and Growth Recovery Plan of this administration. And for the first time in the history of the country, we are linking health to socio-economic development. As we recognize, you cannot have a prosperous, socio-economically developed country without health. You need a healthy populace to grow the economy. And so we developed that. Mr. President, at the Executive Council meeting in 2016, approved this third plan, the third in the 2016 plan, the third in the history of the country. The first one was in 1988, the second in 2004, 2016 is the third in the history of the country. But then, we now need a roadmap to achieve that policy. And so the Strategic Development Plan is the roadmap for achieving the policy. What is different is that for the first time, we engage the entire nation in the development process. The first plan suffered from that disability. We did not have enough consultation. Quite a number of the goals were over-ambitious. The achievement was limited. In all the goals, I think we only achieved one. So to us, we wanted to avoid that mistake. And so this time around, we are quite limited in terms of our objective goals. We restricted ourselves to 31% reduction in maternal mortality, 33% reduction in neonatal mortality, and 29% reduction in under 5 mortality. So we are quite modest. We would rather want to under-promise and over-deliver than to over-promise and under-deliver. We also costed it. And prior to development, we consulted the entire states, the 36 states and FCT. The commissioners were brought in as part of stakeholder consultation. And so we now have a document that truly reflects the aspiration of the entire country. And the goal of that strategic development plan is to guarantee a healthy and productive nation. And the mission is to ensure that Nigerians have access to comprehensive, and as stated in that presentation, Nigerians have access to comprehensive, equitable, quality, accessible, affordable healthcare services. And that's the goal. And we've also costed it. And having costed it, we had partners buying. We recognize that there will be challenges with funding it. We costed it at 6.07 trillion naira over a 5-year period. We recognize there will be some challenges with funding it. So we have stakeholders buying, and we are now going to market this not only to the Nigerian governors, private sector, we will also market it to our international partner. But the beauty of it all is that we've received tremendous support across, not only within this country, but even from outside the nation.
Yes, talking about the 2010-2015 plan that was almost a total failure in terms of implementation and achievement. So, to ensure sustainability, President Muhammadu Buhari assured of transparency and accountability, and mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that there is no corruption in the use of funds. Do you think it's going to work?
Well, do you trust Mr. President?
I do.
Fine, it will work. I think what has happened is that we're also looking at the fiscal system to fund this. And the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund is one of the mechanisms. When you look at it, we spent over 1 year, well, almost 2 years, developing the framework for implementing the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. This fund is going to be located in Central Bank, and the first time in the history of this country, money will flow from Central Bank straight to the facility. There will be no lateral leakage of money. So when the money comes into Central Bank, it will move through the agencies straight to facility. And the facility will have a commercially operated bank account with 2 signatories, the head of the facility and the head of the political ward in that community. That's one. Secondly, we will have co-mingling of funds. Co-mingling of funds imply that if you are a donor, like World Bank, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they are going to put it in the same basket. We gave them assurance that they are free to audit this account at any time. And Nigerians are also free to ask questions. And thirdly, there is a National Steering Committee with civil society participation, private sector. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is there, Dangote Foundation is there. So all of them are there to ensure that this is done properly. And in any case, under this administration, you're on your own if you mismanage any of the funds.
So at what point is all these donors and coming, at what point are they going to key into this plan?
Oh, they're there already.
Okay.
We've already received, in that account, the first tranche of support from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They promised $2 million. We have it already in the account. World Bank promised us $20 million through the Global Financing Facility. That will come in anytime from now. So it's coming in. Dangote Foundation has also promised to raise money through the private sector. There is a promise. He strongly believes that it could raise up to $2 billion for the health sector. We're quite optimistic. We've given our words that the private sector will also manage this. And so with that level of transparency, openness, and willingness to allow scrutiny by even others, I think we will get it right.
Professor Adewole, speak some more to the goals that are embedded in the second plan, the Strategic National Health Plan. Earlier, you talked about the fact that there's been a climb down from the exaggerated projections of the past. But when you were taking off, you seem to have focused more on neonatal, maternal, and infant mortality. All of those, important as they are, do not constitute the totality of our healthcare system.
You're right.
Yes. So,
well, the whole essence is that we want to deliver quality, we say comprehensive, affordable, equitable, accessible, affordable health care through a strengthened health system. So we are also going to strengthen the health system. That's number one, because you can't deliver health outside the health system. Secondly, there are also goals to reducing malaria, improving immunization, and as you know, we're also bringing on board many of the things we've been doing over the last 3 years. Over the last 3 years, we've succeeded in reducing malaria prevalence from 42% to 27%. We've increased immunization. Before we came on board, there were stories about immunization coverage. The story out there was that, oh, we've achieved 100% coverage. But we know, as people from the academia and as public health specialists, you cannot have an outbreak if your coverage is above 80%. So the fact that we had measles outbreak, we had cholera outbreak, we had it imply that there was something wrong in the estimates. So we really, for the first time in the history of the country, and in an open manner, we conducted quality surveys. We released the result that indicated that, in fact, the immunization coverage in Nigeria was just at 3%, not 100. And over the last 1 year, 18 months, we've actually mounted a national campaign to improve immunization coverage, and we've recorded an increase of about 12%. So there are many things in the goal, because, as you rightly said, we're looking into tuberculosis. We've declared war on tuberculosis. We've declared ourselves ready to mount an emergency and complete response to detecting tuberculosis wherever it is. We want to defeat malaria. We are committed to eliminating deaths from malaria very soon, because once you do not die from malaria, then we know that we can tackle malaria. So we are looking at immunization. We are looking at our population. We're promoting family planning. We're putting money in the basket.
What is the baseline from which we are taking off? In other words, how heavy or unheavy are we now as a nation and as a people?
Well, that's a bit complex, but we've done surveys, and we are using those surveys as baseline. We've just finished collecting data on the 2018 demographic survey. The demographic survey are surveys that we do every 5 years. The last survey was in 2013. And when you look at that survey, the survey will give us indication as to maternal mortality, neonatal mortality, malaria, to many things. This year, we've done the survey, and that survey, once the results are done, which should be out in another 2-3 months, we'll be able to tell people comprehensively, where are we? Because that's a benchmark. And when people start complaining about the health indicators, I tell them you are looking at 2013. But in 3 months' time, we'll be able to say, this is where we are. How much progress have we achieved? And if there is no progress, we'll be honest. But let me assure you that we will soon have an idea as to the baseline. But we do some periodic surveys there and there. What we've done under this administration is a strategic re-evaluation of the health system so that we can realistically know where we are. The challenges in the past that people have used guesswork. We are not going to use guesswork. We are going to be honest, and we are going to tell Nigerians where they are and what we need to do to make sure that they are healthier.
Okay, Honorable Minister, you spoke about the Basic Health Care Provision Fund. I would like you to tell the viewers, how free is this and how do people access it?
Well,
the target is the rural areas, women, children, and the elderly.
Well, the first thing we're doing is to define the package of care. Okay. We know the money to start with is not enough to cover everything. So we've defined that package of care to include maternity care. And that's why we say we offer Nigerians free antenatal care. We offer them free delivery. And we're also guaranteeing that should they require cesarean delivery, we will pay for it through the NHIs. We guarantee Nigerians that. Secondly, we'll guarantee them free treatment for malaria. We'll guarantee them free treatment for tuberculosis, free family planning, and we will also take care of HIV. Okay. So we are not and then we said, whenever you enter any of our facilities, we check your blood pressure, we check your urine. We want to address diabetes and hypertension. So we are modest in terms of what we want to offer free to start with. But as we grow the fund, we will expand it to other things. People will want us to look at cancer, to look at this, but we're saying, and then through the Basic Care Provision Fund, there's 5% that will be allocated to emergency medical services. And we've also expanded that to include public health emergencies, the outbreaks. We're strengthening our capacity to take care of Nigerians, diagnose outbreaks, mount surveillance, pick it when it occurs, and then ring-fence the area so that we do not allow it to spread. And then we also take care of accidents. So half of the money will go to public health emergencies, half will go to emergencies. So that when you have accidents and you cannot pay, no one will say you must bring money before you're treated. Because many of us don't carry tons of money with us. So we've set up the committee to handle the emergencies. We will also strengthen National Ambulance Service so that we can take care of our people when they have accidents.
All right, Professor Isaac Adewale, thank you very much. Just before we bring in the other guests to begin to speak to aspects of what we have raised, as well as their understanding of the strategic plan, I would like you to clarify something. You've spoken now as though these were the commanding heights of the health sector, obviously from the federal government perspective. Now, what are the linkages and expected responsibilities of other stakeholders, subnational governments, private individuals, and so on and so forth? You talked about, for instance, access to healthcare, free malaria treatment, and so on and so forth, ambulance services. These are services that some states are already providing. So what are the linkages? What are the areas of reinforcement, of cooperation, and then areas of potential conflict to avoid?
We've actually taken care of that because at federal level, we cannot deliver health to all Nigerians. We need to work with the states. And so the National Strategic Development Plan, the Basic Care Provision Care, all took that into consideration in terms of the policy formulation and development. The chairman of the Forum of Health Commissioners is on the steering committee of the Basic Care Provision Fund. Dr. Jibril is there. And so we are working with the states, and then whatever we have at national level will be replicated at the state. We have a national steering committee at the national level. There will be a state steering committee at the state level, so that they also monitor what is going on. We are going to build a robust partnership. What is also unique, during the launch on Tuesday, we had 7 governors and 6 deputy governors, 13 of them, all committing themselves to improving health. And I did remark on that occasion that what was unique on Tuesday was the fact that we are bringing our leadership at the state level together to pledge their commitment to health. So we're going to do it together. We can't do it alone. What we're also going to do is there is the clause there that says the state must put in a percentage or whatever comes from federal. And we're asking states that there's a local proverb in Yoruba that when you go to a textile market, whatever you buy there or from there is an addition, because you did not go there naked. We are telling the governors that the basic healthcare provision fund is not meant to be a substitute for funding health. It's an addition. And we believe, and many governors are already doing that, improving health situation at the states and really networking with us in order to ensure that we arrive at our targets.
All right. Professor Isaac Adewale, thank you very much. Let's now introduce the other guests who are part of this conversation. First, we'd like to welcome Dr. Mustapha Jibril. Mustapha Jibril is the Honorable Commissioner for Health in Niger State, and he is also Chairman Forum of Health Commissioners of Nigeria. Dr. Jibril, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We also have in the studio Dr. Ifeanyi Nsofo, Director, Policy and Advocacy, Nigeria Health Watch. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Also in our studio is Dr. Aminu Magashi Garba, Africa Health Budget Initiative. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's bring in now Dr. Mustapha Jibril. Dr. Jibril, listen to what the Honorable Minister outlined the plan, of course, and he just indicated that you are on the steering committee for the evolution and obviously monitoring and control of the plan going forward. What has been the disposition of your colleagues who are commissioners of health elsewhere in the country with regard to the plan? Is it just another plan?
Thank you very much. Like the Honorable Minister for Health, Professor Falaronso Adewale, has said, this is one of the first time in governance where the states have been really carried along in the development of plans, especially the National Strategic Development Plan. And my other colleagues, commissioners for health from the other states of the Federation and the Health Secretary of the FCT, we are all happy with this development. There were several stages, several meetings, several workshops, and the states were involved from all the zones of the country. Consultants were also hired by the federal level that also engaged with the state to be able to help the state to be able to adapt this plan to their own peculiarities at the state level. International donor partners were also engaged. They helped in financing the consultants that were identified by the federal government to work with the state in order for it to make it easy for us to be able to adapt these plans. And everything that we are also doing at the state level, it was important for us to continue to also engage our governors at the state level. And the Honorable Minister of Health has also done very well through the Nigerian Governors Forum to continue to go through the Nigerian Governors Forum, to make presentation at the Nigerian Governors Forum, so that more often than not, when we go to meet our governors, they are already aware of what is going on at the national level.
Okay, Honorable Commissioner, your state is one of the 6 states with the FCT that is going to benefit from this plan. How prepared are you for the implementation and the synergy between you, the federal government, the state, and the local governments will have to come into play here? So are you ready for the implementation?
Yes, we are ready, but I will also want to make give a certain information. It's not just 6 states in the country that is going to the whole states in the
The
country.
first batch.
Yes, yeah, we are part of the first batch. And when we talk about, because people ask this question, when they say the first batch, they are always scared that the Nigerians, when there is a first batch, there is never a second batch. The gap between the first batch, second, third batch is just months, 1 month, 2 months. First and foremost, what has been done is that there is a level of preparedness that was through the engagement with the state. We had to ensure that the selection of one primary healthcare center per ward in each of the states was done. Identification of the officers in charge of these primary healthcare facilities, training of the healthcare workers at these local government levels that will be the ones to implement. Since the focus is on strengthening the primary healthcare system, and also ensuring that at the local government level, all the primary healthcare facilities, for the first time, where we made sure that all of them opened a bank account. Like the Honorable Minister have said, funds is going to be flowing directly to this level. In the past, there was always a challenge of the primary healthcare facilities having access to funds for them to carry out their own operation. And then also, this time around, the community are also involved. In the operation of the bank accounts, we have the officers in charge of the primary healthcare facilities, and we'll also have the heads of the World Health Development communities at the world level, who are also going to be signatory to this account. Facility assessments of these primary healthcare facilities have been selected in each ward has also been done for us to know where we are at the moment. So all of this has been done at this stage.
Dr. Jibril, thank you very much. But I want us to back up a bit and return to the Honorable Minister of Health. Viewer listening to us would know that there are two issues that we are discussing here. But it appears that we have not sufficiently clarified the two issues. They are related, no doubt. There is the Strategic Health Development Plan, which is phase 2. And then there is also the issue of the fund. So what is the relationship of the fund to the Strategic Health Development Plan, phase 2?
Who is going to answer that? Myself?
That's why I'm backing up to you.
You know, I did mention that we started with the plan, and then, we started with the policy. There is a plan now to implement the policy. Now the fiscal instrument, the financial instrument to implement the plan. So all of them came together. The Basic Healthcare Provision Fund is meant now to address the funding structure for achieving the plan. So you can't, a plan without funding support will not be implemented. So Basic Healthcare Provision is one of the instruments for achieving the implementation.
And this is coming at the primary healthcare level?
Basically. But part of the money for the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which is about 50%, can also be applied at the secondary level. Because if you want to deliver at primary care level, require cesarean delivery. It can't be done at primary care level, so done at secondary. We will fund that at secondary.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Adebola. Let's bring in Dr. Aminu Magashi Garba, who is the coordinator of Africa Health Budget Network. You've listened to the Honorable Minister as well as the Niger State Commissioner for Health. Give us your own impression of what this Strategic Health Development Plan is, phase 2, as well as the provision fund that has been outlined to help finance the objectives and goals in the development strategic plan.
Thank you so much. And let me begin to mention what the minister has mentioned about the plan over the next 5 years will require 6 trillion naira to be implemented. That's more or less every year we need to mobilize 1 trillion naira to implement the plan, if the plan is going to be implemented. That is a huge tax. And of course, it's not only going to be the federal government, the 36 states and the FCT need to also mobilize money to meet up the 1 trillion naira annually to implement the plan. So, and also looking at the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, it is not going to be adequate to support the plan too. We are talking about mobilizing 55 billion naira annually, from the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. That we need to also mop up additional funding from the private sector, from the development partners, from the community to actually galvanize action. This is a huge task, but as he has mentioned, we need to work together. What is the role of the civil society organizations and the media where we actually belong? You heard from the report of one of your reporter, the Senate chair of the House was mentioning that the civil society, they need to be engaged. So also the media, because having all this funding available, the community, the people need to understand this information. When we talk about transparency definition in a simple way, it means that the information is not only available, but people understand and act on the information. So with all these commitments from the federal government and all the states, we need to ensure that the civil society organizations are fully on ground, not only at federal level, because I think we are doing so well in engaging the CSOs at federal level, but the gaps we're having is at the state level where the civil society, many of them are not even aware of all this good initiative. You are aware that on Tuesday, state governments receive a lot of funding. One state government collected about 28 million US dollar to support the primary health care and so many programs. Some states collected $8 million, $6 million, $7 million. Those are huge money. We need to track that money. We need to know where that money is going to. We need to know how will the state government implement this budget. I was already jokingly also discussing with my friend, the commissioner, that we need to have scorecards of all these resources, where they are going and how they are going. And also we need to inform the society at the state level that you have funding, engage the ministry to ensure that this money is utilized properly.
All right, Dr. Magashi Garba, thank you very much. Let's bring in now Dr. Ifeanyi Nsofo, who is Director Policy and Advocacy of Nigeria Health Watch. Sometimes in Nigeria, there's a skeptical, if not a cynical disposition whenever issues of funds and funds are raised. Attention shifts to the funding rather than to the ends that the funding are supposed to achieve. In other words, a heavier citizenry and then, of course, a much heavier nation, productive and worthy. What is your take on all of this with regard first to the phase 2 of the plan and then to the funding arrangements?
Okay, yeah, so thank you for having me. I think, first of all, we need to give credit to President Buhari, the Honorable Minister of Health, for taking the initiative, guiding this process, having a plan and a costed plan for that matter, and involving the states, because sometimes we forget that Nigeria is a federation, federal government has its own responsibilities, states have, and local governments have. And having said that, I think it's also good for us to look at that budget for the National Strategic Health Development Plan, 6 trillion naira. It sounds as if it's so much money. But for us at Nigeria Health Watch, we've tried to break it down per capita. If we use an estimated population of 190 million Nigerians, that means that per capita is about 31,000 naira for 5 years, which is like 6,000 naira per year. So on its own, it's not a lot of money, which also brings us to what an initiative that was started recently about, we call it Vote for Health Nigeria. Nigerians must begin to take more interest in their health. Because it's as if once you talk about health, people either hands off, and wait for government, or, well, they wait for the Almighty, to take care of whatever health conditions they have. And I think that if you talk about the financing, let's not forget again that states, for the past 2 years, have been signing their own health insurance laws. And for those health insurance laws in the states, they are mandatory once they start implementation. So these are also, areas where funds would come to fund healthcare. And for us at Nigeria Health Watch, we're a bit worried that just about 1% of Nigerians have health insurance. So we know of the issues, within the agency, the federal government is trying to handle it. But to what extent have Nigerians actually decided to buy health insurance for themselves? Some discussions we had in 2018, we've said, okay, we must begin to prioritize health as individuals. Some health insurance plans are so cheap that at least probably about 50% of the population can afford, to buy health insurance for themselves. So that if we're talking about the different funds being, bandied around now, we have to realize that the money is not that much. Even the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, about 55 billion, is not that much. And it's not being released after almost 6 months of it being, being approved. That's also part of the challenge.
I check you, it's been released. We
Okay.
released 25%.
Okay.
first quarter release.
Okay. Okay, so it's a good thing that that has been released, because for several months that was not released, and that's also part of the challenge. And we also don't, for us at Nigeria Health Watch, we feel that when we keep saying free, things are free, they are not free. That money is coming from somewhere. It's coming from a particular pot. Federal government is, taking it from somewhere. Partners are putting it in. Because we feel that if that realization comes to Nigerians, they will realize that they will take it a bit more seriously once you hear that, somebody is giving you this thing for free, because somebody else is paying for it. But for us at Nigeria Health Watch, ultimately, we feel that Nigerians must take health more seriously. Ask questions. If you're on social media, people are complaining about roads, bridges, rail station and all. But very few people will talk about health. And ultimately, without health, really, you don't have anything. Even if we had the best roads in the country and all of us are bedridden, nobody would drive on those roads. So we think that Nigerians should take health a bit more seriously.
Okay. All right, Dr. Ifeanyi Nsofo, well, thank you very much. Well, I don't know, but Juma,
yes,
people don't take health seriously. They resort to self-medication, Yes.
So I was thinking you made a point. I'm coming back to you, Honorable Minister. You made a point about the health policies that has been in Nigeria for a long time, like the NHIS and now this plan. So and to have access to healthcare, it's so difficult, despite the structures that are on ground. Accessibility to the healthcare for every Nigerian is becoming difficult. Is this plan going to address?
Is this based on evidence? Because we say it's becoming difficult.
Yes, difficult, yes.
So it was easy in the past, now it's difficult?
It wasn't easy in the past. It was difficult in the past. Now you have a plan. How is it going to change the perspective? How is it going to change the game for people who can just come into the hospital even if they have nothing, they have no money, they can have access to hospital care? Some people are so poor that they can't afford even a single paracetamol. So how is it going to address it if you don't have NHIS?
Well, let me just say up front that when we tell the nation that we are giving you a basic package of care free at point of delivery, you do not need money to access that care. So we're taking money off because Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world where there is a huge burden on people when they access care. About 70% is from the pocket. And we said, no, that shouldn't happen. That contributes significantly to lay presentation. Because when you don't have money, you start praying. And it's only when everything has failed that you then visit the facility. And that's too late. It becomes more expensive. Now we are saying come freely, very early. Don't worry. It's better for you to come and we'll tell you there's nothing. Go back home. Than to stay at home only to discover that there's something serious. That's number one. Two, we need you, the media. We need the community to restore confidence. And then, as stated by the commissioner, we're doing facility assessment. In fact, part of the quality improvement program is that in every facility, we will have pictures of where we were when we started so that we can really monitor progress. Secondly, the community is involved. 10% of this money, of the 45% that will be channeled through primary care development program, is for human resources. Part of this will be spent recruiting, paying for community health influencers. We want to recruit people from the community to increase awareness, to encourage people to visit the facilities, so that we can bring back the people into the facility. Okay. So all these, I think over time, we will see a dramatic change in healthcare utilization and in the way and manner in which our people respond when they have health challenges.
Well, Honorable Minister, and indeed the other guests, let's just look at our operating environment.
Okay.
One part of our national experience, which is a sad one, is sometimes we have the most beautiful plans and proposals, but getting it off the table and implementing it becomes a huge challenge, other than the question of low maintenance culture. We've had you on this program a couple of times. About 2 years or so ago, you were talking about revitalizing primary health care centers.
Good.
Last year, we took on some state commissioners of health, discussing the issue of the implementation of the plan rolled out by the federal government and how the states were doing. It turned out that they were just talking, hot air. In one state,
the commissioner?
Yes, in one state, you know, you were having snake bites and all kinds of ailments that persons ordinarily should walk into a healthcare center to receive, you know, treatment before going to secondary level. And the impression that was created was more buildings. The governor has approved money for the construction of a facility. It's been painted, it's been commissioned, but getting down to the brass tacks, major challenge. We've also discussed Nigeria's exploding population on this program. 198 million, we understand. Reproductive health experts have come here to say that one of the challenges that persons are having is access to the packages at the local level, at the state level. So all of these plans, all of this strategic development health plan, when you consider, shall we say loosely now, the Nigerian factor, what are the likely obstacles to bear in mind so that at the end of the day, the objectives are realized?
We are not unmindful of those challenges. We are Nigerians. Secondly, we've also moved back into the past to learn from what really happened in the past. This is not the first time we are revitalizing PACE. It happened under Professor Olukoya and Sokuti. But then what was missing was a mechanism for sustaining the improvement. Because it's one thing to put it right. If you put, this is beautiful. If there is no money to maintain it, no money to change your bulb, no money to fix pipes here and there, and you walk away, come back in 5 years' time, you will not recognize this place. We're taking care of that. And that's the whole essence of the Basic Care Provision Fund. 45% of this money will go through Primary Care Development Agency. 20% for commodities. The facilities on their own will be able to determine what do they really need. Paracetamol, cotton wool, methylated spirit, simple things. For the first time, 15% of this money will be to maintain the structure. We want to change pipes, we want to make sure that the bulbs are replaced. So if you enter into it, and we now have diagrams, you feel sorry for Nigerians when you look at some of those photographs. PAC with no beds, broken down beds, but we are going to fix this. Once it is fixed, the photographs are also there. And we have a quality improvement. We have scores for each facility, and we will be scoring them every 3 months. So things are laid out properly. But let us also take into consideration the fact that we will need to be truly motivated. We will need to work with civil society organizations. We can't do it alone. That's why they're there. We want the media. We want Nigerians to challenge us. We want them to visit those facilities and complain. And I can assure you, things will be done differently.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Aminu Magashi Garba, let's have your reaction to the likely implementation challenges with regard to phase 2 of the Strategic Health Development Plan.
So thank you. I would like to summarize that with the issue of the greater accountability and transparency in delivering the services. And let me go down to the community level where the Honorable Minister mentioned about the facilities getting money directly from the agencies to implement the activity. That is an additional burden. You know, when you give a medical officer in charge of a primary center, apart from doing the work to deliver for the patient, now also managing resources bigger than what that person is used to, and also bringing the community heads to also sign the checks. That is also additional burden that we need to be aware of. We need to ensure that the facility, they have the capacity to manage their resources. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of money in the hands of people, and at the end of the day, we're not going to see any services. So we need to demand for that greater accountability, not only for the facility, but all the state agencies that are going to provide oversight. The State Primary Health Care Agency, the State Insurance Scheme, we need to ensure that that capacity is there. We shouldn't assume that they are fully prepared. The structure could be there, but do we have the human resources that will ensure proper monitoring and evaluation of all those services? So I want to wrap up with saying that the greater accountability is very key. Monitoring, reviewing, and taking remedial action for any activity that we are doing at the state level should be the cornerstone of the Plan 2 and the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. Thank you.
Dr. Ifeanyi Nsafo, your take.
So in 2018, we did, Nigeria Health World did a poll of medical doctors in partnership with NOI polls, wanted to find about doctors' immigration out of the country. approximately 9 out of 10 doctors either have gone or are in the process of going. So human resources for health will be a big challenge.
9 out of 10 doctors where?
Either in the process of emigrating or have gone.
That's not true.
No, that's the poll that we did.
Among who?
Among doctors.
You said if they've gone, then where did you?
It was an online poll.
The survey.
It was an
because you said I've either gone or about to go. Data from the Medical and Dental Council indicated that 47% of the doctors are not in Nigeria. Not 9 out of 10.
No, sir. The data you're quoting from Medical and Dental Council is right, but we did a poll of doctors.
Okay.
We did an online poll, and we did a qualitative interview with doctors in the FCT. So I'm quoting the result of our poll. You know, that 9 out of 10 doctors either are in the process or have gone. That's what I said.
If they've gone, we won't be able to locate them.
Yeah.
That's scientific.
Honorable Minister and Dr. Nsofo, but let's drive your point home. Medical and Dental Council
says... No, but I can't drive my point home if the Honorable Minister doesn't want me to talk.
Please talk.
It's an online poll.
Please talk. But you see, I don't want us to mislead Nigerians with data.
No, sir. Sir, we're not misleading Nigerians. No matter where you are on earth, we can reach you through an online poll. So that's what I'm saying. This was an online poll that we did.
Just make your point.
Yes. Yeah. So the point is that human resources for health to implement this plan will be a big challenge because doctors, health workers are leaving the country. And there's also a disproportionate allocation of doctors and health workers. There are some states that probably don't have as many health workers as we should have. But we think that one thing that the Federal Ministry of Health has done is approving the policy on tax shifting so that some of these responsibilities can be taken up by other human resources for health within the health space to provide these services. Because ultimately, even if the states refurbish the health facilities and they are up to standard, and you don't have qualified, competent health workers who provide a high level of patient-centered care to these clients, then it's as if not, work done is zero. That's the point that I was driving to.
Let me also chip in that to start off, we are not envisaging a primary care system operated by doctors. We don't want to, because we don't have enough doctors at that level. We want doctors to come in at local government level as medical officers of health so that they can oversee what is happening there. And that's what we are trying to promote. And so we've approved tax shifting, one of the few countries in Africa with that policy, so that nurses can take on more responsibilities because they are trained. It's a question of training. I've done a training program where nurses took better biopsies than even doctors. So everything depends on training. But I can assure you that we recognize the limitations. We're looking at the incentive policy to keep more of our doctors around, and we will make sure that we promote and ensure that human resources needed for it are made available.
I should chip in here and add also something. I think people need to recognize the changes that are taking place in the country right now. And a lot of some of the negative things that we think of the past are already changing. I'll try and bring it quickly close together. Is that you need a plan in order for you to be able to do anything. Then the question comes in, if you have the plan, where will the funding come to fund that plan? The next question will be, okay, you now have the plan, you have the funding, are the structures in place, even if you're pushing those funds, for those funds to reach out to the people? Now, for the first time in the history of this country, these three things have all been brought together. Like the Honorable Minister said, in the past we had, the last plan was in 2004, National Health Policy. Then the National Strategic Health Development Plan 1 took up from 2010 to 2015. And there was exactly over-ambitious and no plan in place to fund this. Now, for the first time, three things are taking place at the same time. 2016, we have the National Health Policy is already in place. Then from the policy, we have the National Strategic Health Development Plan. So if you have a plan, then you now know where you are going to. Now, where will the funding come from? Now, we need additional resources and funding. We have the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund taking place at the same time with this. Then we're looking at the structures to deliver this funding. Yes. Now, at the state level also, because of the collaboration between the federal government and the state level, now at the state level, almost all the states in the country now have a state primary healthcare development agency that's operating the primary healthcare under one roof. Now, almost all the states right now in the country under this administration have now state health insurance scheme. Then in addition also, they have the drug management agency. So all the structures are there and are in place in order for this plan to be implemented. Lastly, let me just add also that the funding, there is also funding, the fears that people are having in this plan. The Honourable Minister have said it. 20% of the fund is going to go for commodities. So you will not go and they will say that there are no commodities there. About 15% is going for human resource for health. 10% for maintenance of the facilities. So everything has already been put in place in order for this to be.
About that, but I have to sign off. Dr. Aminu Magashi Garba, Coordinator, Africa Health Budget Network. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you too.
We'll take a break right now. When we come back, Good Morning Nigeria continues.
Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three put.
You're welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah.
Welcome.
You take that one.
Yeah, take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have.
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobo to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Here you go.
Madam.
That's it. Those nairas are enough.
Hi, dear. Helen! You got so much even after spending so little.
Savings is such a necessity.
You save everywhere, but here, you lose it all.
How?
With this?
Impossible.
New Ticker Epic 10X.
Even after applying up to 1 liter of your solution multiple times, you won't get the same cleaning that Epic gives you in a single round.
And the expense?
Far less compared to your 1 liter of solution. New Ticker Epic. Toughen cleaning, toughen savings.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back. If you just tuned in, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have all our guests with us, with the exception of Dr. Magashi Garba, who's been signed off, but we have another guest who's just joined us. It's Dr. Chris Otabo, regular face on Good Morning Nigeria. He's a consultant orthopedic surgeon and head of the surgery department at the CSO Role General Hospital. He's also a fellow of the West African College of Surgeons. Dr. Otabo, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and just before we pop our first question to you, let's get the reactions of Nigerians who have been listening in since the conversation started just shortly after 7:35. Dele Jack Solomon has this tweet. The federal government must remove lingering barriers to universal health coverage in the country, and these include low political will to adequately fund health care, poor governance, mismanagement of resources, and lack of coordination among the federal, state, and local governments.
And our regular Festus Akimboyowa says, as part of the plan, government should invest in science, knowledge, research, housing, and economic prosperity to improve the health of all Nigerians. Government at all levels should also step up prevention and take action against drug addiction, alcohol, tobacco, and obesity.
And this is Mike Ayankwa who is tweeting now. It says a good healthcare system is still a big challenge for us in Nigeria, and this invariably has impacted on the rate of mortality. The federal government's NHIS hasn't done enough to solve health issues in the country. Many are sent to their early grave as a result of unaffordability of good care and resort to self-medication.
And Daily Jack Solomon says in his tweet, beyond rhetorics, this health plan must be very inexpensive to avoid the cost of people avoiding the use of hospitals and resorting to alternative medicine. The health plan should be extended to all Nigerians, even in the remote areas of the country, for easy access to quality health care.
Adekunle Olayemi tweets, in advanced countries, health is not negotiable, but in Nigeria, politicians use it to campaign, and after that, abandon it. Every government must make it a priority, and it must not be taken with levity. And also, NHIS should be for everybody, not for some people.
And Professor Oko Ofubochie says national healthcare should be fully integrative, conventional medicine with natural medicine.
And Chris Simeon, it's quite interesting, but if the poor or the less privileged are not benefiting from this plan, it means there is a disconnect. Well, Chris Simeon, apparently you're listening to what the guests have explained. This is, of course, intended to reach the poorest of the poor. That's part of the plan. So those are the tweets that we're accommodating at this time. Let's bring in Dr. Chris Otabo. Dr. Chris Otabo, let's have your take on the Strategic Health Development Plan Phase 2, along with the funding options that have been outlined.
Thank you for having me. I've listened to the Honorable Minister talk this morning, quite a robust plan. But before I go ahead, let me just give a brief historical background. At the twilight of the last administration, the former president appended his signature to the National Health Act and a bill which became an act. And that document, for me, is the most important gift that any government has given to this country in terms of healthcare, because that underpins this plan we're talking about and the basic healthcare fund that we're talking about. Unfortunately, it took almost 4 years before before we got to where we are now in terms of implementation. But never late. It's always, better late than never. The plan is an overarching health plan that is supposed to draw in the resources of all the states, local governments, and development partners, as well as private sector, into one structure that would deliver health care to the Nigerian people, especially the poor. I see the enthusiasm of the Honorable Minister. He has done quite a lot of work, him and his team. But I have my worries, because this is not the first plan, and we must ask fundamental questions. Why did the other plan fail? Because he said only 1 or 2 of the goals of the former plan was achieved. Over 80% of the same people who midwifed the first plan are still very much around. And if we don't look at the bottlenecks closely, it will still fall exactly the way the last one went. For instance, we've lost 1 year already. It's supposed to be a 5-year plan. And we're talking about 6 trillion naira within this 5 years period. 1 year has gone, remaining 4 years. What have we achieved? That plan assumed that the National Health Insurance Scheme would grow by to include 30% of Nigerians. But you know what is happening with the National Health Insurance Scheme today. I mean, if anything, we have reversed progress. Less than 6% of Nigerians are insured in terms of the NHIS. So there are a lot of issues. Then the issues of coordination. The Minister of Health might be in Abuja, making his own plans. What about the state commissioners? What about the state governors? They may have political exigencies that makes them deviate completely from the plan. And because healthcare is in the concurrent list, it's not in the exclusive list, unlike the police force, the IG from Abuja can tell the commissioner of police what to do. But healthcare is in the concurrent plan, and the states, the subnational governments are in themselves relatively independent. They can choose what they want to do. So this is a problem. Then the next one is budgeting. Last year, we know how much was budgeted and we know how much was released. Because the health plan assumes that whatever is budgeted will be released. And when the monies are not coming in from the budget, because the budget itself is also subject to the price of oil in the market. So there are a lot of, though I'm excited about the plan, at least we have something to work with. But there is a problem with, I have an issue with the possibility of achieving even 50% of the plan.
Honorable Minister, your reaction.
Well, let me thank him for his comment. They are quite genuine, and everybody will be worried because the real issue is implementation. One is to assure him that even though the former president signed the bill in 2014, it was never gazetted until almost the end of 2015. So there was a one-year delay in getting it out. Two, we have spent about 2 years trying to make sure that this plan does not fail, and we do not plan to fail Nigerians. We've consulted widely. That is part of the errors of the past. Plan 1, inadequate consultation. Because we are also allowing states to modify the plan to suit their peculiarity. The challenges in Zamfara, they are quite different from the challenges in Lagos. Lagos can operate a PPP model. They can have health facilities manned by doctors from the teaching hospital down to health posts. Zamfara may not be able to afford that. Sokoto may wish to have community midwives. So we are allowing some flexibility in terms of the implementation approaches. Two, we've also taken pains to develop the operation manual for the Basic Care Provision Fund in a way that we will also make sure that we can get it right. With respect to implementation, unfortunately for us, the country went into recession in 2016. We're coming out of recession, but we have assurances that the funding stream into health will improve over time. Let me also say that the challenges he mentioned about political will, we have it. Political commitment, we have it. Action, we will have action. In terms of the releases, health has done better than many other sectors in terms of the release. When we had the polio outbreak, the release was 100%. 100%. 9.7 billion. The first time in the history of this country that Nigerian will release the entire amount allocated for a specific purpose. So I think we are on the threshold of a new era. I'm quite confident, I'm optimistic that if we can maintain this trajectory, we will ensure that we deliver. We've also been careful in the estimates. As a person, the 30% reduction in maternal mortality is not what I will go for. I want to go for something higher. We are talking of reducing it from 570 to 400. Even by SDG goal, even 400 is still high, but we're trying to be modest. We don't want to overpromise. In the past, we overpromised Nigerians. We'll do this, we'll give you free food, we'll give you free everything. We're not doing that this time around. We are quite modest. And we believe that these modest objectives are achievable.
All right, Professor Adebole, thank you very much. Let's bring in again Dr. Jibril. That's the Niger State Commissioner for Health. You listen to Dr. Otabo outline, some of the potential impediments to all of this. Now, at the subnational level, what are the likely responses to these issues? Earlier, you were talking about the fact that you now have aggregated the relevant structures, policy and plans and so on and so forth. Yes, the health insurance scheme is being rolled out in various states. We don't know what the level of buy-in is into those schemes and what the governance structure will also be for those schemes so that the kind of challenges that we have had at the federal level do not recur. The primary health care, I cited examples of some states, that we had their commissioners. You were not on the conversation on that occasion, where we asked them, so look, what is the level of implementation? That was last year, though. Things might have changed. Reproductive health. We have had reproductive health experts on Good Morning Nigeria tell us that people have, like women who want to take advantage of facilities, have challenges with accessing the commodities. So, how are state governments or subnationals likely to respond to the impediments of the effective implementation of this plan?
Yes, Thank you very much. And yes, I've listened to all that have been said, and we appreciate all the comments and all the fears. But like as I was saying, looking at the Niger State government under the leadership of the governor of Niger State, Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Sani Bello, the collaboration with the federal ministry, and I'll continue to say that, has put in certain kind of guidelines and structures that you need to have in place in order for us to be able to deliver and even get fundings. The focus from the national level is what we refer to as results-based financings or performance-based finances. Now, at the state level in Niger State, we have already established our state primary healthcare development agencies. We have had transfers of all the staff at the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency. And from the last scorecard that was done, we are second in the country in the implementation of the primary healthcare under one roof policy for 2018. Now, we have also passed the law, and the governor has already signed into the law the state health insurance scheme. And currently, at the state level also, there is increased collaboration between the commissioners of health in the state. Just last week, I was in Kanu myself to look at the implementation of the state health insurance scheme in Kanu. They have gone very far. Our team were in Oyo State also to look at the implementation of the scheme. In the rollout of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, all the states have had to go to all the other states. We've gone to Osun State, we've gone to Abia State. And then also, importantly, what has also been put in place right now is that, every year, currently, the surveys are ongoing yearly. In the past, we'll have to wait until the National Demographic Health Survey is out, which comes out after every 5 years. So when you are moving, you don't even know what is happening. But now, through the support of the Federal Ministry of Health and international partners, the World Bank, through the Save 1 Million Life Program for Results, every year, a smart survey is being carried out. And you begin to see how you are improving. So during the launch of these National Strategic Health Development Plan and the implementation of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, statistics were brought out and scorecards were brought out for all the states to see how they are doing. And I'm happy to say here that Niger State was among the 13 states that also has shown significant improvement in terms of the skill birth attendant, HIV/AIDS, contraceptive prevalence rate, and we were given funds for that performance. We were able to gain about $6.4 million for us to go and implement. Yobe State, the national champion, is getting about $28 million. All the states in the countries in various aspects are getting additional funds based on how they have improved. So every year, it's like every year there is going to be an examination. So this is going to is changing the game. And in terms of coordination, I've also said each state is also expected to provide additional counterpart funding. In the past, not that fund will just come to you. All the 6 states where this implementation is taking place in the beginning have had to put down 100 million naira to ensure this happens.
I'm sorry, Dr. Jibril. Let's pause you here and very quickly again bring in Dr. Chris Otabo. Dr. Otabo, the Strategic Health Plan Phase 2 and the Basic Health Care Provision Fund, what do this mean, for instance, to the private healthcare providers? How do they key in? What does it mean? Because you had a lot of patronage from the private sector.
Thank you very much. I was going to say that even if you didn't ask me. Yeah, because there are 2 layers of people that must be on board for this plan to work. One is the private sector, which the government avoids to a very large extent. It's just recently that people are beginning to talk about the private practitioners. They see almost 70% of the Nigerian population, either at primary level or mostly secondary and tertiary level. You know well that I have a rich private sector experience. And based on my position in the private sector, I've not heard anything about this. And the Guild of Medical Directors, the private practitioners, doctors, they are not mobilized to engage in this conversation about the health plan and the basic health support fund. And they are the ones to treat the patients. The second layer is the local government. The local government is where the people live. And that's where you have the poorest of the poor that is supposed to be targeted. But at the local government level, there is paucity of of human resource for health. There's paucity of technical skills. The leadership at the local government is so weak. And if we're going to get results from this plan, we need to strengthen the local government and to make sure that they are battle ready to take care of the health of Nigerians under this plan. So I thank God for the Honorable Minister of Health. He's been very dynamic, but he needs to engage the private sector. He needs to assure them, for instance, under the emergency funds, because that's part of it. If people are involved in accident and they are brought to the private hospital should be assured that please treat these people, your money will be paid. So things like that. So not just the private sector generally, everybody needs to be on deck in order to be able to give a level of success to this plan.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chris. Now I go to Dr. Ifeanyi. So you spoke about so many things, and so as partners of the health sector, you're working together for the implementation of this action plan. So what do you think should be put in place to ensure that it is successful this time around and no stories behind it?
Okay, I think the success of this will really depend on how state governments, take it, what role that they play. Because, for example, I know that the state government are supposed to do some kind of renovation. If they do and provide, those renovate and bring it up to standard, the federal government puts in money. So, which means that if the state government decides that their focus is on something else for this period, well, practically nothing will be done. That's what it is. But again, going back to what's for us in Nigeria Health Watch, we've always said that we want to make health a political issue. Let's bring it to the top burner of the political issues. So we need people. People must begin to hold government accountable. There's just so much that CSOs can do. How many CSOs do you have in the country? So at different states, at local government levels, community-based organizations, NGOs working in those spaces must begin to mobilize people to hold government accountable. Take the example of the Abuja airport. Within a very short period of time, the runway was renovated and brought to international standards.
Well,
why?
What's your take on what Dr. Chris Otabo was saying about the apparent gap between the public policy makers and private healthcare providers?
I mean, he's absolutely right. But again, we can't put that on the federal government alone, because if you look at the health space, if you look at what percentage of it does the federal government really control, if you look at it realistically. And this brings me back to what I was saying about the state government. At the state levels, to what extent do state governments, engage private practitioners? Because Dr. Otabo is absolutely right about the number of patients that private practitioners see and the fact that they're not carried along in all this. But I also think that the private practitioners are very important stakeholders. They want good health for Nigerians. So maybe they should also push from their own end to ensure that in all these discussions that they are brought into it.
All right, Dr. Sofo, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, let's take a look again at perhaps some other economic aspect of this plan. What, for instance, are the backward integration issues embedded in this plan going forward? Let me put it this way. Facilities will be provided, equipment will be provided, commodities, that is to say by way of drugs and supplies. How much of this will be... How much of this will be sourced locally? And what is the capacity for domestic production or addition to all of this? I'm asking this question because, again, from our national experience, we can outline all these plans, we can have all our plans, to get in drugs, to get in facilities and equipment, and so on and so forth. And then once you have disturbances in the macroeconomic environment, things change. So, what are the underlying economic considerations for the success of this plan?
I think the first thing to look at is, one, we're not deceiving ourselves that the equipment can be sourced locally. They're not produced locally. So many of them will be brought in, but the beauty of it is that they have a long shelf life. That's number one. Two, we're also conscious of the need to make sure that they're well maintained. We are putting resources into biomedical engineering. There's an excellent facility, University of Lagos Teaching Hospital, where we are now using as a base to train biomedical engineers from other institutions. So we're building capacity to maintain the equipment. But then we have a strong pharmaceutical industrial base. And most of the drugs that we use can be sourced local. So we're quite confident there is an executive order that is facilitating made in Nigerian goods. So we will make sure that that is taken into consideration. So a lot of this money will be retained locally. But then where we cannot get the necessary material, equipment locally, we'll bring them from abroad. But we're also making sure that at basic care level, at the primary care level, we go simple. We are also going to put a lot of emphasis on promotion, health promotion. We want to educate Nigerians. So there's going to be closer collaboration between the people and the facility. We want to train them. Let them know about simple things. Let them know that when you report early, and something cropped up very early, you say we don't value health or we don't, we're saying treat your body better than you treat your car. Because if you treat your body well, the body sends out signals. Don't ignore it. When you wake up in the morning, there is pain somewhere or there is headache, they reflect some things or certain things about to go wrong, already going wrong.
All right. Honorable Minister, let's take this last tweet very quickly, and it's coming from Umbaji. It says, please assess the level of salaries being paid to workers at the primary healthcare level, because most of the states are not complying.
That will go to Dr.
Doctor, yeah, Jibril, very quickly.
Yes, quickly. I will say for this, I will say in Niger State, we are proud to see that the...
What about your other colleagues? Because you are their
even
chair.
in other...
yes,
across
the board, what's the synergy between you people
there's a lot of,
that it gets off the ground?
There's a lot of synergy. I think that's one thing. I'm happy that we're having these discussions here. And one thing that we'll do is improve information to the people. A lot of changes is taking place in Nigeria, but it seems people need to get more aware of it. The apathy from the past is not allowing people to appreciate the changes that is ongoing. At the state level, like I will still see our state now. For the first time, we have states paying 100% CONHES salary structure for healthcare workers. Despite the recession, despite the challenges, Niger State was able to do that, and we are amongst about 4 states right now in the country that are doing that at the federal level. We have Kano State, Lagos State, Niger State, Yobe State, and more states are coming on board. The challenges of payment of salaries for healthcare workers and when paying for salaries for the state, we've seen a significant improvement from when this government came in, when most of the states could not pay salary. But now, at least maybe only 1 or 2 states are still having challenges. So we'll say a lot is being done. People need to be more aware. Issue of private sector, just to add that, under the NHIS gateway, the private sector services are going to also be paid for the private sector and private practitioners. So they are also involved in whatever is going. And in the steering committees also, the CSOs are being involved right now in the steering committee. At the federal level, the states are being involved. The private sector is also on our steering committee, so they are fully on board.
And we also factor them into the emergency medical services. They are representing on the management structure.
Okay. Well, it's on that note we'd like to thank all our guests, who have been with us on the conversation segment this morning. First, we'd like to thank Dr. Ifeanyi Nsafo, is Director, Policy and Advocacy, Nigeria Health Watch. Dr. Nsafo, thank you for being with us. We also would like to thank Dr. Chris Otabo, Consultant, Orthopedic Surgeon, and Head of the Surgery Department at CSO Role General Hospital. Dr. Otabo, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for...
And also our appreciation to Dr. Mustafa Jibril. Jibril is from Niger.
Yes, not Jibril of Niger. or Sudan, or Jibril of Sudan. This is Jibril of Niger.
Jibril.
Yes.
Of Niger.
Of Niger State, Nigeria.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And our appreciation also to the Honorable Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale. Always a delight having you.
Thank you so much.
Nigeria.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's the conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's go back now to our sponsor.